I will call the March 4th meeting of the West Des Moines City Council to order and invite you all to stand to join us for the pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, hello everybody. Please sign in.
Five members present.
Okay, Ryan, are there any changes to the agenda?
Not a change to the agenda itself, but there is a change to item 4I, special assessments for nuisance abatement. There's a memo on the dais related to that. It's just a removal of one of those properties that was on that list, so.
Okay, with that.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, please vote.
Five yes.
Okay, we are going to move on to item 2, Citizens Forum. This is a time for anybody from the audience or online that would like to address the council on anything that is not either part of public hearings or new business. Please come to the podium here. We ask that you give us your name and address for the record and that you keep it to 5 minutes or under. Is there anybody in the audience? And Don, I'm going to pull an item here and have you speak to that. So just hold on 1 second. Is there anybody here in the audience who would like to address the council on anything that is not either part of new business or public hearings? Anybody online? If you're online and you want to address the council on Citizens Forum, you have to hit *6 to unmute yourself. Again, *6, not the pound or the hashtag 6, *6. Is there anybody online or in the chambers? Okay. Hearing no one, Citizens Forum is closed. We're going to move on to item 3. Mayor, council manager report, other entities update. This time I will start to my left here with Councilman Lotz.
I had 5 items last time, so I'm going to have nothing tonight.
Oh, all right. Short and sweet. Appreciate that. Councilman Trevelyan.
Nothing this time, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Hardman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just share a couple of things that, first of all, I think since our last meeting, we had the full-day budget retreat, and where we spent a great deal of our day, about 8 hours, really listening to each of the directors and their strategic initiatives and their budgets and all of that, and it was very fruitful. I really appreciate everyone coming into the budget, trying to keep things really kind of flat. I think you'll find that that's what we did in terms of expenses and FTE counts and whatnot. So a lot goes into this budget preparation. I do want to thank Tim Stiles and his team. Every year I look forward to getting the packet from cover to cover, and as detailed as it is and as organized as it's put together, it's really second to none. So thank you, thank you, thank you for all the work there. Also attended the West Des Moines Foundation meeting. It's our second or third meeting. The chamber it's the West Des Moines Chamber Foundation. The chamber is starting their own foundation. So Councilman McKinney and I are inaugural board members of that. So we had a pretty robust meeting last week where we have gotten the bylaws pretty much finalized, which allows us to proceed to setting up this organization. So really excited about the efforts that will be happening there with regard to the West Des Moines Chamber Foundation and what they're going to be able to do to promote businesses and in our community. So very happy about that. Happy Women's History Month. I know there's a proclamation coming up for that, so I want to thank Audrey for helping us and Human Rights Commission, helping us with these important proclamations, which are statements about our values. As a woman, it's really quite an honor to be able to stop and pay homage to the women that have come before us, the women that have paved the way, the women that have been trailblazers, and there's tons of them. And just the women sitting in this room today, okay? So you don't have to be a trailblazer for us to acknowledge Women's History Month, but as the second or so woman elected to City Council, which is few, I hope to see lots more. And as women all have a seat to the table, they used to say, if you don't have a seat, pick a chair up and put one there yourself. I'm a firm believer in that. And so I just want to advocate on behalf of this proclamation and on behalf of women and on behalf of women having a seat at the table and all the trailblazing women that have come before us and that are around us each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman McKinney.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a whole lot to report over the last couple of weeks, but I do want to say thank you to everybody that was involved with the budget workshop. I know Tim and Chris and the whole team put a lot of time into that, and Tom for your work and over a long period of time, but particularly as related to this budget cycle, to help make sure that we're continuing to move forward with a budget that helps to hold the line and reduce property taxes, hopefully again this year. So thank you for doing that. Thank you, everybody else, for taking the time out of their day to spend here at City Hall. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Hudson.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. City Manager Haddon.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Now, I too would echo what some of my colleagues have said up here. It was a great budget workshop. A lot of work went into that from Tim and the entire budget team and all the staff. And, it's awfully difficult to have staff working as hard as they do Monday through Friday and then have to come in and give up their Saturday to go through an all-day budget workshop, and they do it so gracefully and so willingly, and we really appreciate all their efforts that go into that. And I sickly enjoy that all-day budget workshop. I live for that day. I really enjoy it. So thank you for everything that went into that. Okay, with that, we're going to move to the consent agenda. We are going to poll item 4K, which is item 4K is the approval of the recommended natural resource area name Legacy Woods, and we will have Don come up and speak to that in a minute. And we will also poll item 4T, the proclamation honoring Women's History Month. Are there any other items that any council person would like to have polled and voted on separately? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the remainder?
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Please vote.
Five yes.
Okay. Item 4K is a resolution to approve the recommended natural resource area name of Legacy Woods. And with that, Don, I would have you just come up over here to the podium and give us your name and address for the record and make whatever remarks you'd like to make. And I want to thank you and others for all of your efforts on this and everything that you're doing.
Thanks. I'm Don Shane, 808 65th Street, West Des Moines, Iowa. Good evening, Mayor and esteemed members of the City Council. Again, my name's Don Shane. I've been a proud resident of West Des Moines since 1978. Tonight, I stand before you with heart brimming with gratitude for your consideration of the Legacy Woods project. Over 2.5 years ago, a seed of hope was planted with Tom Haddon, a vision inspired by this very community and my fiancée, Gail McNulty, a place that has nurtured my family for generations. Here my children grew up, and now my grandchildren are learning and thriving. Legacy Woods, born from this vision, transcends the concept of a mere nature preserve. It aspires to become a vibrant tapestry, woven with the threads of both nature and history. I want to express my deepest appreciation to Tom Haddon and Ed Arp. Their unwavering dedication, countless hours, tireless poured into this project have been instrumental in transforming a dream into a tangible reality. Their commitment is truly commendable and deserves our utmost recognition. Furthermore, I extend my sincere gratitude to the City Council. By allowing Legacy Woods' name to come to a vote, you demonstrate a commitment to fostering innovative projects that enrich the lives of our residents. I also want to acknowledge the guidance of Ryan Penning, our Park and Recreation Director. His expertise throughout the process, particularly in navigating the complexity of public and private partnership, has been stellar. Legacy Wood envisions itself as a unique destination, not just for West Des Moines, but for the entire Des Moines community and visitors across the state as well as the country. Legacy Woods Nature Sanctuary aims to be a haven where families can connect with nature, learn about ecology and land reclamation. The area will also allow people to delve into the rich history preserved within the Legacy Woods Jordan House and pre-Civil War cemetery. The unwavering support of my co-chair, Dan Houston, has been nothing short of pivotal. His generous contribution of both time and resources played a crucial role in getting this project off the ground and securing official funding. Together, Dan and I are committed to raising the remaining funds to bring this vision to life. I stand before you today truly enthusiastic about the positive impact Legacy Woods can have on our community. It will provide a space for families to connect, learn, reflect, and find peace in the embrace of nature and history. It has the potential to become a lasting legacy enriching the lives of generations to come. Therefore, I urge the council to approve the project's name and allow us to transform this vision into a reality for West Des Moines. Together, we can create a space that not only honors our past, but also teach and inspire future generations. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you, Don. Somebody want to move approval of the resolution?
So moved.
Second. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. I just want to start out by saying how grateful we are, Don, to you and Dan, to Tom and everybody that's working on this project. But this is a public-private, really a public-private nonprofit partnership that we are embarking upon. It is going to provide a beautiful nature area that families can come and enjoy. And not only that, but as you said, it's going to preserve our history, where the Jordan House is. This is going to be a significant project for the city, for people to enjoy for years and years to come. And it would not be possible without the efforts of you, Don, and Dan, and others. And I know that you have been embarking on a significant fundraising effort towards this project. And we are all extremely excited about this and more grateful than you will ever know. So thank you for being here and presenting today and for all that you're doing. Any other comments, questions?
Sure. I just want to say thank you as well, because I think when we talk about this specific location in our city, and Don, you just hit it on the head, because this is a very, very special spot that I look around the country. There are very, very few places that are as unique as this, and it's right here in our own community. And as it sits right now, not a lot of folks want to walk up that hill through the forest, that old cemetery. And there's a reason. It's not the most pleasant place. There's a lot of outbuildings that are really run down. But what you are helping us do, what you are leading this effort to do, is to make this a place that's more worth coming to. Because if you walk up the hill, you're walking in the footsteps of people who were escaping from slavery. Because a lot of folks think that people hid in the Jordan House basement, freedom seekers. They're not hiding in the Jordan House basement, because that's the first place you look. Where would freedom seekers go? They would run up that hill. They would hide in the woods. They would hide down in Jordan Creek. And Don, this is going to give us an opportunity to turn this entire legacy area into a place where you can explore and walk literally in those footsteps. It's important, it's meaningful, it's historical, it's cultural, and it's going to take a little bit for us to get there, but when it's all said and done, it's going to be amazing. So I want to say thank you to you, thank you to Dan, thank you to everybody involved, because this is going to be great. Thank you.
Councilman McKinney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll echo both the comments that were shared here, and a heartfelt thank you, Don, to you and Dan and everybody else that's been involved. I don't know, I'd say it's about a year ago that we had a very different conversation in these very chambers about what should happen on that corner. And dare I say, there was some friction about where things go. But, friction gives you some traction. Without friction, it's hard to get anywhere sometimes. And so, in this open space, it sounds like we're going to make some really good progress. And I appreciate you and the work that you and everybody else is doing to help make this a reality. So, a heartfelt thank you.
Councilwoman Hardman.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Dan. Don, I'm sorry, D&D, Don and Dan. both of you are equally significant in the progress that has been made thus far. And there have been other people behind the scenes that have worked really hard to truly honor this space. And I remember a year ago listening to what it could have been and other interests that wanted it to be something different. And the chord struck me then, and it strikes me again today, that the word legacy, by the way, is probably one of the best words that you can use for this, because it is preserving a legacy that means so much to so many people and what this area represents. And the space that it existed so many years ago for people to be free and for people to travel a space that allowed them to hopefully see a different light. So each and every time when this is all said and done, that I get to visit that space, I look at it from a perspective of years and years ago, what this space meant to so many other folks. So, and it's happening right here in West Des Moines, which makes me so proud that we have this particular spot called Legacy Woods, which represents our history, as so eloquently Councilman Hudson just said, our history, our culture, where we have been, where the founders stood up when others did not. And it's right here in our city. So thank you so very, very much for your fortitude, your perseverance, your time, and your treasure for allowing this to be a reality. I'm grateful.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to say, Don, thank you for everything that you've done to help make this happen, as well as Tom Haddon, Dan Houston, and everybody else. And a year ago, yes, there were some heated discussions taking place in this council chambers, but it was very easy for me to support keeping that piece of land virtually undisturbed. It's the, as I said then, it's the last piece of West Des Moines that really, other than for a few buildings there, is pretty much the exact same thing that James Jordan would have seen when he homesteaded there. So
That's right.
it belonged, or it deserved rather, to stay the way that it is and always has been. So again, thank you for everything that you've done. And I look forward to being able to talk to my grandchildren about what West Des Moines started as.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Lotes.
I'm not going to say anything that the others haven't already said, but Don, I've known you for years. I've known Dan for years. I'm really thankful to have you guys leading this effort. It's a beautiful piece of land, and it's only going to get better. Thank you for all that, and appreciate your work on it.
All right, thank you, Councilman. And with that, please vote.
Five yes.
Okay, item 4T, it is a proclamation for Women's History Month for March of 2024. I would ask for a motion and a second, and then I am going to read the proclamation, and then we have several people here for the proclamation, people on the Human Rights Commission and others, and we will invite them to come down and take a picture with myself and the council and the city manager. Anybody else that wants to get in? Is
Motion
there-
for approval.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and I will read. Whereas during March, we celebrate the significant contributions of women in history, culture, and society at large, including the many women whose contributions have been unrecorded. Whereas adopted by Congress in 1987 as a month-long celebration, it traces its roots back to a staged protest of women workers against factory conditions in New York in March of 1857. Whereas women constitute the largest population in the United States at 168 million, but have not always been included in the pages of history. Whereas they have fought tirelessly for equality and justice, securing voting rights for some women in 1920 and all women in 1965. Whereas, although there has been tremendous progress, we recognize more work is to be done. Although the gender pay gap has narrowed, women only earn 82 cents for every dollar a man earns. Whereas despite the continuous struggle, we celebrate the strength and fortitude of women in our community. Whether serving in elected positions locally or across the country, their leadership, innovation, and ingenuity have made us stronger as a collective. Whereas during the month of March, the city of West Des Moines recognizes the resolve, compassion, and ingenuity of women and the countless contributions they have made to our community. Now therefore, I, Russ Trimble, Mayor of the city of West Des Moines, do hereby designate March 2024 as Women's History Month, and I call upon the residents of West Des Moines to honor the women who make significant sacrifices to better our lives and community. And with that, I would, let's get up here and take a picture. And I also want to recognize, I believe I just saw our state representative, Mary Madison, walk in the room. Mary, if you and the other people that are here for this could come down and take a picture with us up front, that would be great. And then we will do remarks, if there are any, and we will vote. Commissioners and anybody else that's here for that, don't be shy, come down, take a picture. Here, you hold on, you stand here, hold this one. Come on in. Maybe we can have a couple rows, maybe front row and back row, so we can get crowded. You guys move up a little bit. Shorter people in the front. You're good. All you move back, move up in the front. Two rows. There we go. All right. Audrey, come on, Audrey. Let's go.
Vicky, you too. Vicky, come on. History.
I will. I was going to see where Vicky goes, and I will scoot you in.
All right, here we go. Hold on. Vicky's not looking. Vicky, you can't hide from that. Milton's got to be in the mold. All right, good. All right.
1, 2, 3.
All right. Thank you.
Stranger.
Okay, any discussion on the proclamation before we vote? We will wait for Councilwoman Hardman to get to her seat here. But if anybody has any comments before then, we will take them. Any comments, questions, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, please vote.
Five yes.
Okay, item 4T is approved. Okay, moving on to item 5, old business, item 5A. Item 5A is an item that we have deferred on a number of times. You can see in the agenda, it's been continued from September 25th, November 20th, December 4th, January 16th, and February 5th. It's an item that was deferred a number of times to be able to go back and have additional discussions with different residents that had some concerns with what we were doing here. And we've got it again on the agenda tonight. I am going to read the item here in a second, and then what I'm going to ask is, this has so far been before one of our subcommittees. It's the Development and Planning Subcommittee. It's been there, I believe, once, maybe twice, but the rest of the council has not had the privilege of getting an education on this item and the ins and the outs, and I think even the people that are on the Development and Planning City Subcommittee could also receive additional education on this issue. So I'm going to read the item, and I'm going to ask for Lynn Tweet, our Development Director, and her staff to come up and kind of give us a little bit of an education on the issue. I have not given her the most time to prepare for this, so it's going to be a very brief education. We'll get additional education after. And then I'm going to ask that we defer this item to the April 1st meeting because we have a resident, Tom Stull, who wanted to be here to be able to speak. He sent us an email that he regrets he couldn't be here. He didn't know we were taking this up, and I'd prefer that we don't take action when he's not here able to share his thoughts. So item 5A, ordinance amendment, amend Title IX zoning to modify regulations pertaining to uses permitted in the open space zoning district and amusement and recreational service uses in non-residential zoning districts, city initiated. With that, Lynn?
Russ, can I ask a question, though?
Yes.
If you're going to request that this gets deferred, and I don't know where that's going to end up, but if you're going to ask for deferred,
Yep.
why spend the time tonight to have Lynn present something that maybe she's not 100% prepared for? And
Because-
we're going to go through this again in, what is it, a month?
Because it's a complicated issue that even when development and planning has received an education on, it still has questions, and the rest of the council hasn't had the chance to hear about this issue and what we're doing on it, and think of questions that they may have that they want to pose to Lynn that she can research for next time and come back and answer those questions. Council is going to provide information that they'd like to have for the next meeting so they can make a decision, an educated decision on where we're going to go on it. So I just think it's good that we get a little bit of an education from Lynn tonight, have maybe a 15-minute discussion, 20-minute discussion, get some direction from you all on what questions you need answered to be able to make an informed decision at the April 1st meeting, which is when Tom Stull, who's asked to present on this, can be here. He cannot be here for the March 18th meeting, but he has assured me that either he or Danielle can be here on April 1st.
Okay.
So be thinking of your questions that you need Lynn to have answered either tonight or by the April 1st meeting. Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
Lynn Tweet, Director of Development Services. Just for clarity, a reminder here, this ordinance amendment affects the Ag Open Space Zoning District. It only affects ground that's within the corporate limits. We are not allowed to zone ground outside of the corporate limits. We can do subdivision review for 2 miles outside of the city, but we cannot apply zoning regulations to that property. So what you see on the map there is literally the areas in green are those parcels in the city that are zoned ag open space today. Really what they encompass is along Raccoon River, the Raccoon River. A lot of that has some flood potential issues. So it has some environmental challenges. Some of it is a tree conservation easement. There could be slopes in there. So it's kind of more your natural areas, those areas that we expect to kind of stay undeveloped. It is also city and state parks. So it's Walnut Woods Park, it's Browns Woods Park, it's Raccoon River Park, all our other the ones that you see kind of dotted throughout the city. Those are various parks and greenways within the city. And then it also includes the private golf courses, Des Moines Golf and Country. You can see Glen Oaks Golf Course in the middle of their development is open space, as well as Willow Creek Golf Courses. So that is what we have been applying the Ag Open Space Zoning District to. It is not applied across the city. It is not applied to undeveloped ground. It is not an automatic designation you get when you're annexed into the city. If you are annexed into the city and you have an operating ag facility, you've legally established it in the county, you get to continue to do it regardless what we zone it. You get to continue to do that until you want to stop doing it. You can sell that ground to somebody else, they can continue to do it. So if you're operating when you're annexed, you get to continue to operate, and we have code provisions that allow for that. So just to take this one step further, what we're really talking about, because of this open space, and a lot of this is, like I said, city and state kind of owned, we're kind of assuming we're going to take care of our own ground, and we're not going to put uses on ground that we have that's open space that maybe is objectionable for one reason or another. We're kind of making an assumption that the state is going to do the same thing between Browns Woods and Walnut Woods State Park. So what you end up with is those areas that are kind of in this orange color are the private ownership parcels. Those are the ones that really this ordinance is going to affect because they have the ag open space zoning on them. So again, we don't come in and we don't tell anybody they have to stop doing what they're doing, but these are the parcels then that would apply to it. So when we took this ordinance on, I can tell you there's our land use matrix in chapters 5 and 6, chapter 5 being our residential districts primarily, and chapter 6 being everything else. Then in the land use matrix itself, there's 180 cells that have something allowed, either permitted or permitted conditionally, in the open space district. Nearest we can tell, a lot of those uses go way back to when we kind of did assume that undeveloped areas were operating ag, and we were giving them some provisions to keep doing that. So there's some uses in there that we just don't feel are appropriate, given that we have come back and really put this open space designation really on our environmentally challenged areas and not out into those open flat areas that are actively farming. So of those 180, I can't tell you exactly yet how many of them are being affected by this. What I can tell you is that from a quick look at what we have, and I generalized down to try to not give you a 180 cell spreadsheet to look at, I kind of condensed those down into general categories, and you have a bullet list in your staff report of what we recommend to be permitted by right, what we recommend to be permitted conditionally, and what we're recommending to be prohibited. Of those uses that are in there, those that are identified to be prohibited, we come down to about 8 uses that would not be allowed in the city after this ordinance amendment went through. There's about probably 20 to 30 of them that fall into that permitted or permitted conditionally. And the balance of the uses, even though we're saying in this ordinance to prohibit them, they're allowed in other zoning districts in the city. So we're not taking away the use entirely. We're taking away the use from being on the green spots on the map. That's really what we're trying to do. So what I need kind of from you guys is this list that we have included in there. Are there uses that you feel we want to still enable in the green spaces across the city? Or what do you want us to do with these land uses? We've given you our recommendation. We're kind of at the point of we need to know. Now, we did meet with Tom Stoll. We also met with Wayne McKinney Jr. and talked to him about it. When we first presented this back in October, since that time, after talking to them, we've made about 20 adjustments to what would have been seen on the first ordinance to what would have been seen on this, what if we would have given you the full ordinance today. There's about 20 uses that we put back in to kind of address what they were wanting to do. I will tell you the one big sticking point that we've been pointing out in this ordinance, the big sticking point is ag animal production commercial. We will allow ag animal production personal, but we are proposing that we take away that commercial use, again, because we don't feel it's appropriate on the green highlighted parcels.
And what does that ag animal production personal mean? Does that mean that I could have a certain number of cattle? Do I have to get it by permitted conditional use, number one, and then I get however many head of cattle, and that is for my own raising, butchering somewhere off-site and having my own meat? I can't sell it to somebody else, or can I sell it to somebody else?
So you are correct, it is a permitted conditional use, so you would have to go to the Board of Adjustment to have them go ahead and say, yes, it's allowed, or no, it's not allowed. And quite honestly, the board's going to look at and say, is there any impacts coming from what you're wanting to do? Majority of the time, they approve the use, but it's not a guarantee that they would. By the animal control ordinance that we have, which is Title III, or I believe, you can have up to 8 animals on a property that is allowed to have animals. So 4 of those are really meant to be cats and dogs, so there's really another 4 that you could have as cattle. I don't know what the board would do, quite honestly, if you said, I don't have any cats and dogs, I want 8 cows, whether or not they would give you the 8 cows. But you could have up to those 8 animals for your own use.
And the space that we're talking about is a minimum of 10 acres or more for that kind of stuff, right?
In the residential, yes, it has to be a 10 acre, and actually what we do is, we also have this is going to convolute it a little bit, there's residential estate zoning district that would say you have to have a 40,000 square foot lot before you can have animals production personal. So open space is a 10 acre, the residential is a smaller district that you can
Okay.
do them in.
Okay. What questions does the council need to have researched and answered to be able to make an educated decision on how we move forward on this?
I have two quick questions.
Okay.
So this list, is it possible to publish the list of all of those land use conditions? And,
The original 180 matrix,
yes,
it's part of city code today, so it's published already on our codifier site.
could staff send out, since, because, like, I'm a business person, and when somebody sends me a contract and it's 100 pages long, and they say, don't look at page 51, well, what do? I look at page 51, and I go, what am I missing?
Yeah.
The other thing I think about is, why are we doing this now? Why not 6 months ago, 10 years ago? Why today?
So as we've kind of mentioned before, when the Nazarene Church Camp or Walnut Wood, what is the church that had it? Legacy Woods. It's now Legacy Woods. But prior to us obtaining it, we knew it was open space, and quite honestly, we never really looked on our matrix to see what all was allowed in open space. We all kind of assumed that it really didn't allow much. And we were rather shocked when we looked in our code and we found, like I said, 180 cells in that land use table that would allow you to do things in that open space area. And they included some things that we probably wouldn't have wanted at the Nazarene Church Camp, let alone want in our environmentally sensitive areas. There's some warehousing that could have happened. I looked at it so much, I kind of.
There was a mobile home park that I think was threatened to be placed on there.
You could have a nursing care facility that goes in there with, like, just permitted, whether or not it allows, you can get the parking and everything to work. There was just a lot of uses that we kind of went, these are probably not the best thing to have in our open space area. We can allow them in other zoning districts, and we do allow them in other zoning districts. But just under that open space, it probably needed some cleanup and it needed some attention. So that's kind of what sparked it. We've also heard the rumor out of Minnesota that would say, there was somebody that came in, they were undeveloped ground, they were annexed in, they were right away put to an ag open space zoning district. The owner wanted to have it rezoned for housing. The neighbors said, no, we don't want it rezoned for housing. So he lost his rezoning request. So he turned around and put up a sign that says, I gave you the choice of houses, you chose hogs. And he put in a hog confinement area right there. So even though it's far-fetched and it's probably a one-off, that's the possibility that exists if we don't take certain things out of our open space that we don't feel are appropriate for the areas that we have zoned, ag open space.
So Doug, you want that list, that full list of all the uses that can be done under that property today?
Yeah, because in the packet, right, 6.1 Division A, O2 ag production, I see beef cattle feedlots, hog farms, yada, yada. And then I read later down, that there is a list of 180 or whatever. I just want to read those for my own
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And then I think the other thing that would be helpful is, of those 180, how many of those are we impacting or changing in some way, shape, or form? And are we
Yes.
taking them, are the 180 all allowed now by right? That they could just do them? No. Okay, so we need to see what is current existing law and what we're proposing going to. How many of those end up going from right to permitted conditional use or permitted conditional use to banned? So that we know exactly what it is that we're impacting, I
Yeah.
think, as well,
Yep.
right?
What can we do today that we can't do tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah, which, like I said, the quick answer is this, is what you can do today that you won't be able to do tomorrow under what we have proposed today. That's not.
And I read this part too, but then there's like 180 other things that I know that aren't here, and it's like, okay.
And like I said, and for the purposes of trying to stay focused on the kind of bigger aspects, because our code is used as SIC. SIC, Standard Industrial Classification, it breaks it down into a lot of weeds, is really what it did. So to keep it kind of focused on the bigger item of what we're talking about, like I said, we put that into that 62 bullets in the list of uses that you have. So obviously, there's a lot of extra things. Now, there's also some duplication because we had open space in our land use matrix in Chapter 5. and we have it in Chapter 6, and some of those uses were duplicate. Sometimes they matched up, and sometimes one says one's permitted, and the other one says it's permitted conditionally. So we were trying to pull as much as we could out of 5 into 6, and have one spot to really be looking at that as much as you can. But we certainly can get you a list and identify kind of which ones are going away completely, or we're proposing. And again, when I say they're going away from open space. They're not going away as an allowed use within the city overall. It just would take a different zoning district.
I'll say I appreciate the context of how this got started too, because I didn't have that in the packet, so.
Lynn, I assume that when you're talking about the other 180 or whatever that are not on this list, I assume that when it comes to current private owners of those green spaces, you've heard no pushback or anything about those 162 that we don't see. And so the ones that we're looking at right now are probably the ones that a current owner of one of those green spaces is worried about or thinking about, or at least kind of has on their mind.
We've only talked to Wayne McKinney Jr. And Tom Stoll. Wayne was more about, well, if I decided to put in a horse stable, could I do that? And so we talked through that and actually brought that back as a PC, that you could do a commercial horse stable, where before it would have been just a personal, you could put a stable there if you're out of a floodway kind of thing, but you really didn't want the traffic and everything, because there's potential impacts. Anytime you do a commercial, your impacts increase. So we had talked to him about that one. That really was the main thing, or kind of that idea of uses that he wanted to be able to maintain. And then Tom Stahl, for the most part, Thomas point blank told us after we sat down with him and went through this, I'm good with everything else, I just want the ag animals commercial. So that became kind of the sticking point to it. And that really, like I said, we're making our recommendation based on what the green areas of the city are. But so we have.
And with the ag animals commercial, what would that allow you to do?
Any kind of production of ag animals in the numbers that you feel fit, really, is what it amounts to. So right now, our code just outlaws feedlots, which feedlots are actually just open-air feedlots. That doesn't even touch on CAFOs. CAFOs are a covered structure.
Okay, so you couldn't have a hog lot confinement.
You can't have
Stahl's not saying he wants a hog lot confinement there.
He really won't give us what he wants.
Okay, well, we'll
So-
talk to him on the 1st
Yeah,
about
That
that.
one's one that we're still kind of wrestling with. We offered up the 8 cows, and he said, well, that doesn't really solve what I want. And maybe, I don't know if he
Okay.
really wants, or is just trying to prepare for the future of what he might be able to do someday.
Can you repeat, he wants ag animal as what?
Commercial.
Ag animals production commercial,
Okay.
so personal obviously is really, you're only growing what you're going to use. Yes, maybe you're going to give a cow to your family member, or you're going to slaughter it and sell some of the beef on the side, but you don't have a commercial operation. You don't have numbers that producing odors. You don't have trucks kind of coming and going, bringing them and doing the different things. So a lot of this is separating those commercial kind of activities
From-
from the things that are more of a personal or less impactful
I
nature.
understand.
Lynn, is there, oh, go ahead, Kevin.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, is there something in the code or in the zoning protocols that has a limit on the number of animals? Like if you are ag production, is there a limited number of livestock per acre? Is there anything like that written in current code?
Not in our code. We have found a few codes that put some numbers to acres, that if you really wanted to try to regulate it, but our code today only would fall under the personal, and that's where the Board of Adjustment, or it would allow you up to that 8 is all we would allow. Otherwise, we don't define what an ag animal production commercial is. We don't have anything that says how many animals you can have, how many animals per acre you can have. We really don't have that in our code.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Lynn, you said that the animal control ordinance allows for up to 8 animals. I believe that's just 4, isn't it? Pets? It's 4.
pets, four, yeah.
4
My
pets.
understanding, it's up to 4 cats and dogs.
Right.
Any combination of up to 4, and then there's 4 more that can also be. You can have no more than 8 on a property.
Is that correct? Because that's not what I remember.
If you qualify, right, you have to be at least 40,000 square foot lot, estate lot, or 10 acres or more.
And again, the animal control ordinance just is talking about types of animals and the numbers. The zoning code is where it starts saying how many acres you have to have and some of the other provisions. So it's,
Okay, so when you send out this list of 186 things that's currently allowed in ag open space, would you please also send us the animal control ordinance? Because I don't remember ever hearing 8. The second is, and Greg touched on this, why couldn't you, even though our code doesn't allow for it, why couldn't you have so many ag commercial animals per acre. We do it for residential. Why can't you do it the same thing here?
It's really just trying to find the authorities that know and finding a definitive answer, because what I've found, for the few I have found, it varies as to what's the right answer. And I certainly don't know how many animals an acre can.
But it could be done.
allow for. Yeah, there's some that have done it, or there's some recommendations, I guess, from different people out there.
But that presumes there is a right answer, and it doesn't sound like there is a right answer, which means, as Councilman Trevilian says, it seems like we could
I grew up in the city. I
create
have no
something,
idea
but
how many-
not that I'm advocating for that, but thanks. Thank you.
So, yes, we can explore that. Like I said, I did find a few that were giving us kind of some ideas of what it is, but it's, I don't know.
What else?
Because I don't see anybody ever, and I know that it's been suggested that, well, we don't want, Des Moines Golf and Country Club becoming an animal feedlot. Do you really think that's going to happen? So, again, I think we're trying to, how was it Steve said, we're looking for a problem to a solution, so. Okay,
What else do you need, Kevin? Do you need any other questions answered or anything for next time, for April 1st?
not at this point. If I come up with something, I won't hesitate to call in.
Okay, so let me ask Len, I mean, today, under current code, without this changing, I can have, obviously, ag production animals commercial,
It's permitted conditionally.
permitted conditional. I can go to the Board of Adjustment and ask for that. Today, I can have, today I cannot have cattle and hog feedlots.
Right,
It's not allowed, no matter what.
right. But a feedlot is just the open-air feedlot. It's not a confinement.
Okay, today I can't have,
A confinement is a structure, a building you're putting them in.
can I have a
Feedlot is-
confinement
is-
today? Under,
Yeah, because, well, it's kind of raises a question. We don't clarify. We just say feedlots are not allowed.
feedlots are not allowed,
But
but
we
it-
really don't have a line item in there for CAFOs. So
But we could.
we could, and that's part of what the recommendation was for staff, is to say, let's be clear, let's put these terms back in the code and make sure we're clear on that.
okay, so today I can do logging, sawmills, planting mills, I can get that through permitted conditional use.
Yep.
Okay, let me ask, in a sale barn, I can do PC today. Drive-in pictures I can do today if we don't change this. Amusement park I can do today if we don't change it. Let me ask this, if people want to grow crops, and they want to harvest those crops and they want to take them and sell them, can they do that today and can they do it tomorrow?
They can do it today, they can do it tomorrow. Crop
Okay.
production is not being affected by this.
With some of the things that we're looking at banning here, if they do it today, are they grandfathered in?
If they establish that use legally, so yes, if they have that established use on their property today by our code or previous to our annexation, then yes, they get to continue it.
Okay, so if the stalls today had ag production animals commercial, and we change this thing tomorrow, which we're not going to do, maybe,
They would be able to
they're fine.
continue to do it.
They're fine? Okay. All right. What other questions, comments anybody have? Okay, and this is not a change in zoning, it's a change in the permitted uses in this particular zoning.
Yeah, it's a change to the zoning, the city code for the
City code.
uses allowed in this district.
Okay, so we have published this so that people know that we're making a change, but we have not sent out notices because state law requires that notices go out in a change of zoning.
No.
Right, okay.
When zoning matter like this, when it's across the whole city, you don't notice every property. If we have a
Okay.
zoning matter, a rezoning on a particular property, Bob down the street comes in and says, I want to change my land to this, then we do the notice in the paper.
Okay.
As well as we will notice everybody within 370 feet of that property. So if it's property specific, we
Okay.
also do mail notices. If it's city code amendment applies across the city, it is just
No
publication
notice.
in the paper per state code.
Okay, and that's state law.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions, comments before we move on? Okay, I guess I would ask for a motion to defer this to April 1st so that we can have the stalls come in and present. We will have questions answered and more asked, I suppose, April 1st.
So moved.
Okay, so moved, is there seconds? Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, please vote. Thank you, Lynn.
5 yes.
Okay, moving on. Item 6, public hearings. Item 6A. This is time and place for a public hearing to consider Midtown redevelopment, 1221, 1245, and 1261 A Street, amend the comprehensive plan land use map, and amend the planned unit development ordinance and designate and regulate multi-use medium land use for the development parcels for Midtown redevelopment PUD, initiated by Keystone Phase 2 LLC. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice is published?
February 16th, 2024, in the Des Moines Register.
And have you received any written comment to this hearing?
The Plan and Zoning Commission, by a vote of 7 yes, adopted a resolution recommending approval of the comp plan amendment and rezoning request.
Okay, anybody from the audience who would like to address the council on item 6A, please come to the podium, give us your name and address for the record. Anybody online, please hit *6 to unmute yourself and do the same thing. Is there anybody from the audience or online that would like to address the council on item 6A? Okay, hearing and seeing nobody, I will declare the public hearing closed. We've got a resolution for approval of the comprehensive plan land use map amendment and amendment to the PUD, and there are no outstanding issues.
Motion to approve the
Second.
amendment.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, please vote.
Five yes.
Motion for consideration of the first reading of the ordinance change.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
5 yes, an ordinance amend the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2024, and ordinances pertaining to plan unit development number 122, district regulations and guidelines.
Motion to approve the first reading.
Second.
Please vote.
5 yes.
Okay, item 6B. Item 6B, this is time and place for a public hearing to consider 2024 street reconstruction program initiated by the city of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice is published?
February 16th, 2024, in the Des Moines Register.
And have we received any written comment to this hearing?
None, Your Honor.
Okay, anybody from the audience who would like to address the council at item 6B, please come to the podium, give us your name and address for the record. Anybody online, hit *6 to unmute yourself and do the same thing. Is there anybody in the audience or online that would like to address the council on item 6B? Okay, hearing and seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. We've got 2 resolutions and a motion which we can take at the same time, and there are no outstanding issues.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I think for both 6B, 6C, and 6D, it's always pleasant to see the engineering estimate and the actual cost to be quite a bit different. So thankfully, I don't think that's been the case for a year or two because prices were so high. So really, really grateful to see those prices maybe come down a little bit. So huzzah.
Absolutely. Okay, any other discussion before we vote?
Just one question.
Go ahead.
What is this going to do, Ryan, to the 4th of July parade? Because I know I'm going to get questions. Ryan Penning.
Yeah, probably have to redirect it a little bit, right?
Ryan Penning, Parks and Recreation Director. We're still trying to figure that out. We'll work with engineering, but if we have to, we'll reroute it like we have in the past.
Down Grand and back to the.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
All right. I presumed that. I just wanted to say. Thank you.
And we will get that information out as soon as we can.
All right. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, please vote.
5 yes.
Okay, item 6C. This is the time and the place for a public hearing to consider Grand Avenue sanitary sewer abandonment initiated by the city of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice is published?
February 16th, 2024, in the Des Moines Register.
And have you received any written comment to this hearing?
None, Your Honor.
Okay, anybody from the audience who would like to address the council on item 6C, please come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record. Anybody online, hit *6 to unmute yourself and do the same. Is there anybody in the audience or online that would like to address the council on item 6C? Okay, hearing and seeing no one, again, I will declare the public hearing closed, and we've once again got two resolutions and a motion which we can take at the same time, and there are no outstanding issues.
Motion approved.
Second?
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, please vote.
5 yes.
Okay, item 6D. This is the time and place for a public hearing to consider 2023 channel repair program initiated by the city of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice is published?
February 16th, 2024 in the Des Moines Register.
And have we received any written comment to this hearing?
None, Your Honor.
Okay, anybody in the audience that would like to address the council on item 6D, please come to the podium, give us your name, address for the record. Anybody online, hit star 6 to unmute yourself and do the same. Is there anybody online or in the chamber that would like to address the council on item 6D? Okay, seeing no movement and hearing no voices, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Once again, we got two resolutions and a motion which we can take at the same time, and there are no outstanding issues. Somebody want to move?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, please vote.
5 yes.
Okay, item 7, new business. Item 7A, Browns Woods Hollow Plat 2, Southeast Hollow Court, west of Veterans Parkway, accept surety and release final plat to create 18 lots for single-family development, 1 lot for wetlands, 1 lot for parkland, and 2 street lots. Browns Woods LLC. We've got a resolution to accept surety and approve and release the final plat. There are no outstanding issues, and this was approved unanimously by the Development and Planning Subcommittee. As part of this resolution, we are waiving the requirement that the public utility easement be in the rear or side lot, and are instead allowing public utility easements in the front yard. Does somebody want to move approval of the resolution?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, is there a second? If not, we will take another motion on this. Okay, this motion dies for lack of a second. Does somebody want to make another motion? Okay. Hearing none, I guess this will die for lack of a second, and this item is defeated. Before we move on, would somebody like to come from the audience and address the council? Sorry about that. Okay?
Kevin Crawford, Cooper Crawford and Associates, 475 South 50th, Suite 800, West Des Moines. I'm a little bit confused on why this didn't get a second, and
You and me both.
it's a final plat, it's not a preliminary plat, so the preliminary plat had the PUEs in the front yard, if that was, and that's been, what, 7 years ago we got that approved, probably? So, if I can answer any questions, I will. I'm just a little bit confused on the situation.
Okay, are there any questions that you have for the applicant at this time? Nope? Okay, no questions. I would just tell you that unfortunately, this item is defeated, but there is the ability for the council to have a motion to reconsider at the next couple of meetings. Not saying that's going to happen, but that is a possibility. So this item 7A fails to receive a second and is defeated. Moving on to item 7B, Cross Creek, 2475 Southeast First Street. Approve a preliminary plat to create 23 lots for single-family residential development, 1 outlot and 1 street lot, Savannah Homes, Inc. We have got a resolution for approval of the preliminary plat and acceptance of the parkland dedication agreement. There are no outstanding issues, and this was approved unanimously by both Planning and Zoning and Development and Planning. As part of this resolution, we are agreeing to waive the 30-foot buffer requirement and instead are allowing tree planting in certain areas. We are also agreeing to defer installation of the sidewalk along Veterans Parkway until such time that it is required, and accepting surety in lieu of the public improvements. With that, does somebody want to move approval of the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I guess I would ask, before we have discussion with the council, I'd ask, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to address the council on item 7B? Okay, go ahead, Ted, please give us your name and address for the record.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Ted Grobe with Savannah Homes, 800 South 50th Street. I've been a resident of this great city for 32 years. Let me begin by saying that although we don't always agree, your staff has been very fair and professional to work with, and I'd like to compliment them publicly for that. Given I'm sure you've heard how hard it is to build affordable housing like we're trying to do in Cross Creek, I thought that you might find this interesting. It is a breakdown of some of the regulatory costs associated with Cross Creek. I will give you a few minutes to review this.
Could you scoot it up just a little bit? I can see the very top above creek mitigation. I can't see what's above. There we go. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ted, is there any other discussion, any other comments? I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay, okay. Ted, how do these charges compare to other cities in which you do business?
I haven't run into the wetlands and creek mitigation yet anywhere else. The water connection fees and the stormwater erosion, or the sanitary sewer connection fees are quite steep. The interesting thing is,
Can you scoot down to the very bottom? Thank you. I saw the top one. Can you scoot down to the very bottom so we can, thank you. Appreciate it.
I stood in front of this body 8 different times now, but going back to 40 years ago in Southwoods, only 2 of these items were on the list. And that's one of the things we've struggled with. That being said, 2 items checked in red on this list, I'm here to specifically ask the council to waive. This drawing shows the west end of our plat, the detention basin and Veterans Parkway. What it also shows in red is 442 lineal feet of sidewalk that connects to nothing, will be used by nobody, is next to a street that is 90 feet away and costs about $10,000. Secondly, we're being asked to pay Mid-America Energy $15,000 for 3 streetlights. I would show you on this drawing where the streetlights go, but no one is quite sure. Quite possibly, they may never be installed. So I've come this evening to respectfully ask that you remove these 2 requirements and focus on their benefit to Cross Creek. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions or comments at this time? Any questions for Ted at this time?
Ted, what were the costs on those 2 things that you mentioned for the sidewalk? And I can't remember what
The sidewalk is $10,000. The 3 streetlights are $15,000, so $25,000 total.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Ted, thank you for being here. Thank you for putting this together. It's probably, in my time here, been the best, I guess, line of sight for the council to see the costs that go into putting together a development like what you've got here. And I'm particularly sensitive to the costs that are being, that go into this when you're looking at trying to put in housing for folks in our community. So it's not lost on me what you're trying to go through. And I think what you've raised here are 2 important things. So I think what I would say is, outside of the conversation of the items specifically within 7B, I think it's personally something that I'd like to better understand what we as a city might be able to do to address the costs that you've outlined here and perhaps others, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to, help certainly with housing needs that we know exist in our community. And I know we talked about this, you came before development and planning. We did change our ordinances to allow a little bit, I'll say, more dense development to help reduce costs, hopefully allowing you to be able to pass those costs on to home buyers at a lower rate of the house when they go to buy it. So that's separate from this. I'd like to have a conversation on that. But specifically related to what you're talking here, I see the sidewalk, the 442 linear feet. When you're asking to waive that, I'd like to, I understand that today it doesn't connect with another sidewalk in the area. Is that right, Ted?
Right.
Okay. And so, while it doesn't connect with another sidewalk today, down the road, theoretically, it would be connecting to a
It's
sidewalk.
proposed, as I understand it, to be the sidewalk for Vets Parkway if it's expanded.
Yep. And so, at the point in time down the road is when that sidewalk would go in, and then my understanding would be it would be on the residents that happen to live there to put in that sidewalk. And so I guess I'm a little concerned about having residents down the road have to pay for a sidewalk they may not actually understand is something they're going to have an obligation to do based upon something, it might happen 5 years from now. But that obligation was actually created today. And so I'm a little concerned about passing that down 5 years from now to a future unknown resident. On the streetlights, to me, it's.
Matt, to interrupt you a minute, what we're going to do now, instead of future residents, we're going to pass it on to the 23 residents in Cross Creek who can't use it. They would literally have to put a shovel in their trunk and drive 3 blocks to go shovel it. And there's no access to it for Cross Creek. So one way or another, it's a possibility if it happens. Somebody's going to pay for it.
Yep. No, I understand. You're right, Ted. I'd like to better, focus on the Veterans Parkway streetlights. So your drawing here shows, if I'm looking at it on the screen here, at the top of the screen, which I think is technically the west side of your development, along Veterans Parkway, we don't know where the streetlights are going to go, is what you're saying, right?
I do not. Mid-Am, I talked with Mid-Am, they do not.
Okay. And are there streetlights there currently? I mean,
Yes.
in other areas?
Well, all the other, Vets Parkway has streetlights all along the one side.
Opposite side.
Okay. And my understanding is that at some point down the road, Veterans may be widened to a point where the streetlights would go in and where they are being required today. Is that right?
Say again?
Well, at some point, they're going to widen Veterans Parkway. Is that right?
I can't find anybody that thinks that's going to happen, but yeah.
Okay. But the theory being is you put the lights in there where Veterans Parkway would be widened, correct?
I don't,
Okay. So I guess let's back up. Where would the streetlights go then that you're being told need to be installed? Because this is where I do lack
nobody is able
understanding.
to give me that answer. As to where, the one suggestion from staff was they would go on the opposite side of existing Vets Parkway, and then if it was expanded, Mid-Am would move them. That was the explanation that I got.
Okay. Well, maybe, I don't know if Brian or somebody can help give us some insight on the streetlights. I'm struggling with that as I sit here today.
I think Vets Parkway is adequately is adequately lighted now. It doesn't, in my understanding, it doesn't need any light. These would be if Vets was expanded.
Well, and it sounds like someday it's going to be expanded. It's just a question of when that's expanded. And today, we're looking at deferring the sidewalk until that road, until it's needed. And the thought is that that road is probably going to be expanded and the sidewalk is going to be needed at a later date. And the surety is what we're taking to have payment towards that, and assuming that that covers everything.
Is there a time limit on that, Mr. Mayor?
I don't know that I don't think there is a time limit on the surety. I could be wrong, Brian, you correct me if I am, but also the discount rate of money over time will probably make it such that if it happens later rather than sooner, it may not cover everything, and the future residents may still have to pay for it. I tell you, what you're bringing up here is a dilemma that we've been faced with, and I mean, Kevin and I have seen this for 14 years, and there's no easy solution to it. I know that we have not only deferred maybe a sidewalk, but we've also deferred the lighting requirement till such time that we felt it was necessary. This motion that we are approving does not include the lights, but I think we've done that before. Oddly, this parcel keeps getting brought up tonight, the Legacy Woods. I think we did that at one time along Grand Avenue on the one side until such time they were needed. The problem is, I think at some point in time, I mean, it's a public safety issue, they're going to be probably needed. And someone's going to have to pay for that. And if it's not paid for in the development, then essentially we're asking for the general taxpayers to pay for that, which is a difficult thing as well, because the people that are living here benefit probably more so than the general taxpayer at large. But I don't know, Brian, do you want to address some of what's been brought up on the widening and the street light requirement? And
Sure. Brian Hemeseth, city engineer. So the widening of Veterans Parkway, we're at about 5,000 or so cars a day out there, and that was at the counts in 2022. And about 12 to 15,000 is when we would widen that road. If you've been out there recently, there's not a lot of development out there, but 5,000 cars a day is pretty significant, and it's just going to keep increasing as development occurs along Veterans Parkway and areas around there. So is Veterans Parkway going to widen? Yes. When? Not real sure. It totally depends on when things are developed in that area. So we just keep that monitored, and we watch to see when we get close, and then we program that in and we get it built.
could we defer on the streetlights as well as the sidewalk and ask for surety to be wrapped into that too? I mean, is that a possibility, or is there a public safety issue right now?
So there's a couple different things we can do, and we've done both. So you can, if there's streetlights on the other side, which I believe there is already, we will usually put the streetlights in opposite the other ones and put them in on the street itself. And then, as Ted referred to, then Mid-American Energy, at the time of the widening, they will remove those streetlights and put them into their ultimate location free of charge to the city. The other thing we may be able to do is have, what we can do is Ted can pay for those streetlights at final plat and then defer the installation of them. And I believe that Mid-American Energy will be okay with doing that in the future. I believe that's something that we've done in the past. So that is something else we can do. But in both cases, Ted would have to pay for those streetlights at the time of final plat, because the only other people that would pay for it is either the residents in that development or the taxpayers at large, which isn't fair to either.
Okay. And I'm assuming if we were going to try to do something like wrap in the streetlights to this and surety or whatever, if that was even possible, we'd probably have to defer on this item for another couple weeks to make sure that it's something we can even do.
Well, and Lynn can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but this is the preliminary plat, and this is not
Sure.
the time that we actually take the surety for that. We do it at final plat.
Okay.
So we could do it at the time of final plat. So we have time between now and when the final plat occurs, I believe. And Lynn
Okay.
can run up here and tell me I'm wrong or nod your head or something.
Lynn, run up here, tell him he's
Sorry.
wrong. I got to correct myself after this as well, so I want somebody else to be wrong.
Sorry to drag you up again, Lynn.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Lynn Tweed, Director of Development Services. This indeed is only the preliminary plat. We will still bring forward the final plat. The final plat is when we typically take all sureties and payments and fees as part of that action.
Okay. But as part of this, we are accepting surety in lieu of the public improvement going in as part of this action now, but you're
You are-
saying we can add to that, we can take that action.
What really the ask is tonight is, do you want to approve the preliminary plat with direction to staff to not take payment for the streetlights and the sidewalks?
Okay,
So
both of them.
That would be, well, your
We could-
call. You
Okay,
can do
we'd have
either
to
one.
change we'd have to
Yeah.
walk back the second and the motion to include it, but,
Yes.
okay.
So it'd be yours, we'd be looking for that direction to know, okay, when we bring you the final plat, do we need to have the streetlights paid for? Do we need to have sidewalk surety for that veterans
Okay.
sidewalk as part of that action? So we're looking for your direction
Okay,
as to what we should be doing.
all right.
I got a couple comments, Russ.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I am not at all in favor of not having these items put in with the development, because what's going to happen is if they don't get put in, then the taxpayers are going to get stuck doing it. If we take surety, we've been burned on that before, and then there's not enough money that we got paid today to put them in next year, 10 years, whatever time frame it might be. And Mr. Grove, as far as the sidewalk goes, I'm sure you're familiar with the northeast intersection of Ashworth Road, where those houses right there on that corner in the cul-de-sac, and I can't think of the name of it, abut Ashworth, there's a concrete retaining wall. Those residents shovel that sidewalk. So it can be done. We have areas throughout the city that is divided, their properties are divided by creeks, or whatever it might be. So to say that it doesn't make sense to put the sidewalk in because they can't get to it and they will never use it, that doesn't sit well with me. So I think that the sidewalk needs to go in now. I think the streetlights need to go in now. That way we know they're done. The property owners don't ever have to come back and put a sidewalk in that they didn't know they needed to. So now's the time to put them in.
Okay, thank you,
Brian.
Councilman.
Brian, to be clear, those sidewalks, as I look at the plot map here, if the sidewalk is on the east side of Veterans Parkway, it looks like 11, 12, and 13. Well, I'm looking at the map here. So even though there's an outlot, and kind of thinking about what Kevin was just talking about, like people, so would that be 11, 12, and 13? They would be responsible for shoveling that? Am I hearing that correctly? I'm just curious.
Typically, in a situation where you're adjacent to an outlot, there's usually an association that's in charge of maintaining the outlot. So they would be also in charge, that association would be in charge of snow removal and maintenance on that sidewalk. It wouldn't necessarily be the individual property owners that live in those houses.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And as for Councilman Trevillion's comment, Ted, I really appreciate you coming here and sharing. And, at the budget workshop, I was talking a lot about how we can possibly make things more affordable and what we can do for the city, especially for what you're trying to do here. You made them tighter lots, and that's going to allow for more homes to be built. And this is a really, really great development. And I'm very supportive. I'm very excited for it to be there. When you talk about the $10,000 and the $15,000, that adds an extra $434 that, as you said, will be passed on to their home costs, which is understandable because that's a part of the development fee. And then the $15,000 would be an extra $652. So we are talking about an extra $1,086 that is added onto their home price because of that. And I do agree that that's unfortunate, but it is a good amount of money, but when it comes to a house, it's just not as much. So I am actually with Kevin on this idea that if it needs to be done, it does need to be done now. So I'm supportive of Councilman Trevillion's and the idea that it does need to get down. But I'm very grateful that you came before us and shared these things, because I think it does really hopefully get us to have a broader conversation about what we can do as a city, because there are some things that we just can't do to bring a cost down because it's just necessary for infrastructure to happen. But I would still love for engineering and development services to have a good look at this, because we do need more affordable housing options, and that would be in the single-family development as well.
So let me just clarify before I move on. The motion and the second before us is to to approve this with the surety in lieu of the public improvements, and the surety being going towards just the sidewalk, that we are agreeing at this time until it's needed to defer but not waive. Ted is asking us to waive it, never needs to go in, doesn't ever need to be put in. I think what Councilman Trevilian said is, based on what you said, you're going to vote against this as is because he wants the sidewalk put in. He does not want the surety in lieu of the public improvement. You're okay with the surety in lieu of the public improvement, or you're where he is and you're
I'm where
against?
Kevin is.
Okay, so you're a no and you're a no. Okay, just want to make sure. Councilman McKinney.
Yeah, I think, I guess, I can't remember if I moved or seconded, but I did something.
We'll
We'll
go back and ask.
And I'm comfortable moving forward with the surety. We've done it in other instances, and, but, you know, I guess, Ted, do you have concerns with the surety as is proposed in the packet here? I mean, I know you want to waive it. I can appreciate that. But do you have concerns with respect to having the surety versus paying for it up front?
The concern I have is that in perpetuity?
Which, the surety?
Yes, the surety is in perpetuity, and like Councilman Trevilian said, I mean, with the discount rate of money over time and the costs constantly going up, you're going to provide surety for the cost of the sidewalk, but if it goes in 10 years from now and these sidewalk panels go from, I don't know, what are they today, 150 to 200 to up to 300, 400, the surety's going to be short. And then what's going to happen, that Councilman Trevilian's talking about, is a huge predicament that we're always in. We are going to, even though there will be something probably in their abstract or some notice that they're going to sign, these homeowners are going to come in 10 years from now saying, we had no idea that we were responsible for paying for this sidewalk, and we are not going to pay it. We are not paying for it. And then we're stuck in the position of going, okay, well, who is going to pay for it? And the only choice we have at that point is to make them pay for it because they should have known this was part of the paperwork they signed with you, or we have to put it on the general taxpayers, which really isn't fair.
Let me,
It's a huge predicament that we face, just to let you know. I'm sympathetic to what you're asking for, but we face this every day.
my wife accuses me of not being able to read a room. Let me go ahead and pay for both of those items, and I thank you very much for your consideration. I appreciate the time that you gave me to do that. I understand the difference of opinion that council members have, and it's a difficult thing. I guess I'd close with this comment. I've done 7 or 8 different plats in West Des Moines in the last 40 years. Every time I do one, there's new costs on it. Because we always seem to be able to add something, we never seem to be able to take anything away. And so the struggle with affordability, not just here, but everybody reads about it, it's national.
Yeah.
And that's because a lot of people want to add costs to development and to home building. They just do. And it's unfortunate. If you sat me down and you made me king for a day, I don't know the answer. It's a tough, tough question.
It is, but I would ask you, I would say a couple things. Number one, right now, we've got a motion and a second to allow for surety in lieu of the public improvements being put in now.
Take it out.
You've got 2 councilmen. You don't want to put it to a vote and see? You don't?
Take it out.
No. Okay, so we're going to have to take back the second, take back the motion. The other thing I would say to you is, number one, thank you for the homes that you build in our community. They're good homes, they're affordable homes. What is the, and I know it's difficult, I sat there on your front lawn asking you, you know, what can you build a home for these days? And I know that costs have gone up significantly for you in this industry.
Right now,
what are these homes going to be sold for?
Well, entry-level housing, I'm building on some lots in Norwalk that cost $60,000. Entry-level housing is $330,000.
Is that what these are going to be too?
No, these will be pushing 400 because of the list you just saw. There's $75,000 in wetlands and creek mitigation costs that didn't exist.
Per household? Per household?
No, the whole.
Oh, totals, okay.
The detention basin that's costing me $60,000 is basically a wetlands, but nobody will credit it that. That's all it is.
Yeah,
It's another wetlands that we have to create to handle our own stormwater, but the state and the federal government won't give us the approval to say, well, let's use that detention basin as a wetland. So we have to pay to mitigate it. What happens is, you go to a bank, and they've done a development somewhere, you basically go buy wetlands somewhere else, so
Right.
you can plow yours over.
get the credits. Yep, no, I understand. Well, and I want to be clear here. I mean, we are working towards affordable housing in West Des Moines, and we've done a lot of creative, out-of-the-box things to add affordable housing here that I'm very proud of. The list that you provided of all the fees that we have here, I want staff to take a look at that and compare that relative to others in the metro, make sure that we're competitive. I also want to explore ways that, and I know staff has already done this, different regulations that we have in place that would make sense to repeal, to try to help bring about more affordable housing options for the city.
One, you have a very knowledgeable lady on
Yeah.
that issue right here.
Yep.
And two, you just saw what happened when someone tried to reduce those costs. Taking away money from a city is, as you just saw, almost impossible to do. If you want streetlights on Vets Parkway, that's for the safety of the public, right? Why doesn't the public pay for it? Pay for those streetlights? And that'll make me unpopular with everybody on the dais. I get it.
Well,
But-
for
but
however many
that-
lots
the
you have here,
sidewalk-
they'll be happy, but the
Nobody from-
69,000 people might be upset.
Nobody from Cross Creek can use that sidewalk. They can't get to it. It's a public sidewalk. It's there for the public. You're asking a private developer to pay for it. And that just can't, you saw what happens. It just doesn't go away. It can't be voted because you have voters that you have to deal with that say, wait a minute, we don't want to pay for that either.
Mr. Grove, that's how every sidewalk has gone in previous years. Where I live on 34th Street, that sidewalk was put in 1971 when that subdivision got built. The single-family resident didn't put it in, the developers did, and that's how their sidewalks
No,
and streetlights get put in.
And by the way, the side, I'm putting in all the sidewalks on Cross Creek, on both sides of the street. The
Yeah.
costs that I gave you do not include paving, sewer, water, or storm pipes, parkland ordinance, street signs, inspections. None of that was on here. That's the cost of the development, and I expect to pay the street lights that I'm paying for in Cross Creek and the sidewalks that I'm putting in Cross Creek. I don't expect to pay for it on a street that's 250 feet away.
But it's adjacent to your development, that's why.
I
That's
think-
how every other,
I think that's a generous use of the word adjacent. I'm sorry, Councilman, to disagree with you.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and we need to look at these things and, you know, brainstorm ways that we can help bring about more affordable housing
It's
in the city.
really, really hard.
It is difficult. And it's really difficult for us because the land prices are so expensive in our
Oh.
city, too. Which, I mean, says people want to live here. The demand is great, the supply is limited, so the prices are high, but.
I have 2 children that live here. I have 4 grandchildren that live here. They all live in West Des Moines. We like it a lot.
Well, that's
Thanks
good
for
to hear.
your time.
Appreciate what you did, Ted.
Perspective, Ted, and all the information you provided. I appreciate it.
All right, so who made the motion and who made the second, Ryan? Do you know?
Hudson made the motion, McKinney seconded. But I guess if Lynn can clarify, my understanding was with the preliminary plat, the surety is not being done at this time, is that right? So we may,
But we're giving direction. I mean, the
Yes.
pinky has that we are giving direction, that we are going to accept surety in lieu of the public improvements going in on the preliminary plat, right?
Yeah, Ryan is correct. We are not taking any surety with this. We are looking for direction as to, do we need to take surety when the final plat comes forward? So this is just a straight approval of the preliminary plat for you at this point.
Okay, but if I take a look at the pinky, which maybe I should stop reading, and I look down, it says, as part of this, that we are granting a deferral And we are accepting surety in lieu of the public improvements.
That's your conditions.
So if
And
we-
that's-
Those are our
that's a-
conditions.
That's a typical thing that we will do on them.
So you're saying we don't need to take back the motion a second? We
because
can
you're-
move forward with this, and you guys can ignore the direction we gave you?
Right. Your motion is approval of the preliminary plat, subject to the conditions. Now, if you don't want him to defer the installation of that sidewalk, then your motion needs to be approval of the preliminary plat with the removal of condition 1. We expect the sidewalk to be
Well,
installed.
why even talk about the conditions when the conditions
Why don't
don't
we make a
matter?
motion that says I approve the preliminary plat and site plan?
It's not, no
with-
site plan. There is no site plan with this. I need an agenda.
That's what this says. Oops, wait a minute, I'm on C.
Preliminary plat, preliminary
I'd already
plat and
moved forward.
acceptance of parkland
I'd
dedication.
already moved forward, sorry.
Yeah, so, is this touch?
Yeah, it's touch. It's an iPad.
So if you go all the way back up to the top on your resolution, right under the title block, approval of preliminary plat and
Release
acceptance of the
final.
parkland dedication agreement. That is what the council is being asked to do. That is subject to the two conditions. One was the deferral of the sidewalk on Veterans Parkway, which you guys are saying, nope, we're not. I'm hearing, what I'm not hearing is you're wanting the surety for it. When installation happens, that is kind of the question at hand now.
Okay.
No, he gets in,
Expected to put it in initially before
yes.
that final plat?
He's expecting to put it
Put it
in
in
with
now.
the development.
Okay, so your motion needs to be with removal of condition number 3, the sidewalk is to be put in with the final.
Ryan, can I revise my motion?
So yeah, we will need the motion rescinded and then an amendment.
Okay.
I would rescind my motion. Do we need a second on that rescinding of the motion?
Yep, that'd be McKinney.
Second.
And I would like to make a new motion to approve this, but also with number 3 under recommendations to be stricken from the record. How does that sound, Ryan?
Yeah, removal of the condition of approval.
Removal of the condition of approval, specifically number 3, though, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Second.
I just wanted to say stricken from the record.
Okay. All right. It's been
Still on the
moved.
record.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Gosh, I hope not. All right, please vote.
5 yes.
All right, I want to take a pause a second, and I want to go back to item 7A and just, so item 7A, which was a resolution to accept surety and approve and release the final plat, that died for lack of a second. It is our belief at this point in time, typically if you bring something back for a motion to reconsider, the people that are on the prevailing side have the ability to do that. There was no prevailing side, I guess. There was no motion, there was no second.
Yeah.
So we are going to have to meet with you, staff will meet with you to try to figure out how we bring this forward. But it seems to me that we're going to have some sort of a change in what was asked
Mr. Mayor?
for.
Oh, I think,
Get forward.
talking to our city attorney, Greta Truman, I believe we have the opportunity to reintroduce it if we wanted to. Is that not correct, Ryan?
But it would have to be in a different form. It can't, I don't know that it can be in
We
the exact
can-
same
I don't
form.
think you can either.
No,
we can
that
introduce
just
it.
went down,
As a,
voted it down.
well, I will defer to our city attorney on this particular matter.
I think the smartest thing, honestly, you guys, is to have a conversation with the applicant after the council meeting. We've got a parliamentary procedure that we've got to research into that nobody knows the answer for, and we need to research that and figure out what the proper protocol is. I believe at this point in time that we may need to bring this back, but in a different, slightly different format. I'm not sure we can bring
And
it
the
back.
reason for that is
same way.
because this is very, very rare.
It's very rare.
Yes. And so we want to
I
research
was
that
a little bit shocked
procedure.
that there was no second, so.
All right.
So we will get with you and we will figure out what the correct parliamentary procedure is and how this moves forward, if it moves forward. Okay. Must be a full moon out tonight. Moving to item 7C. Delavan Warehouse, 2101 Delavan Drive, approve a preliminary plat to create 14 condominium lots for industrial development and approve site plan to allow construction of a multi-tenant warehouse. Next phase development, 2101 Delavan Drive LLC. We've got a resolution for approval of the preliminary plat and the site plan. There are no outstanding issues, and this was approved unanimously by both planning and zoning and development and planning. There is one condition of approval, which I think exists, and that is that no industrial condominium bay lot will be sold until the final plat is approved by the council and recorded by the county. I think that matters. I hope that matters. With that, does somebody want to move approval of the resolution?
So move.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Please, somebody second this. All right. It's been moved and seconded. Before I open it up to discussion from the council, is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Or online, hit *6 to unmute yourself. All right.
Kevin Crawford, Cooper Crawford, 475 South 50th, Suite 800. I have nothing further to add, but I'd answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for Kevin on this item? Is there anybody online that would like to address the council on this item?
I got a question, but not for Mr. Crawford.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman.
So recommendation number 2, who's going to police this? If we're saying that they can't sell it prior to final approval, who's going to be the watchdog on it?
Well, that's a great question.
And that's why I asked it.
Lynn Tweet, Director of Development Services. Without a final plat and creating those lots, they have nothing to sell. So they can do a lease agreement for that area, but technically, there is nothing for them to sell without it going through the final plat and having that lot physically created within the building.
Somebody can't look at the preliminary plat and say, hey, I want to put $5,000 down to reserve that condominium bay?
Basically, it's a lease agreement at that point.
Okay.
There's nothing to describe for the county to say, I am buying this part of this building.
Okay.
So we fully expect him to come back with the final plat, but there is nothing to say that he can't just have 12 different people. He owns the building, he owns everything, and he just has 12 people that are paying rent or leasing a space versus buying it.
Okay.
So he can't do this, whether or not, he can't sell them without approval of final plat,
Right.
Even
Yeah,
whether
it's-
we have this in there or not.
Yeah, it's just like a single-family subdivision.
Okay.
There is no lot for you to buy. It's not been physically created. That's what that final plat does. It
So
creates those
so
lots.
this recommendation 2 is just basically an
It's more
insurance
of a notice to them.
note, or
to
a
say-
notification to remind you that you can't
Yeah,
sell it.
if you really want to sell these as condominium bays, you are going to have to go through that final plat
Okay.
process.
All right, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Please vote.
5 yes.
Okay, it's been a night. Item 7D, South Branch Plat 2, 3075 Southeast 42nd Street, approve a full site plan to allow construction of an approximately 76,800 square feet multi-tenant warehouse building, SBBP JV 21 LLC. We've got a resolution for approval of the site plan. There are no outstanding issues, and this was approved unanimously by both Planning and Zoning and Development and Planning. And we have got one condition of approval that I hesitate to mention, and that is that we are requesting surety, I believe, for installation of the sidewalk along Southeast 42nd Street. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
You got it right, Mayor. I'd move approval.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Could have a repeat. Okay,
Wait a minute.
we've got a motion to
Second.
approve of the site.
so we can
Second, yeah.
Okay, it's been moved and
That's all it
seconded. And with that, I will open it up to discussion, and I will first start with anybody in the audience who would like to address the council or online. Please give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Dan Carlson with WB Realty, 12951 University Avenue, Suite 200 in Clive, sorry.
We'll forgive you for being in Clive for a little while.
Yeah, like the proposal says, we're looking for site plan approval. We had preliminary, or partial site plan approval previously, hammered out some details with Development Services. Like you said, there is a surety being requested on the sidewalks. That is due to 42nd Street not being widened yet. So the grading is not suitable for those sidewalks to be installed at this time.
Situation.
Okay. Anything else for the council? Any questions?
I have
Okay, go ahead.
no question, well, I have questions, but not for the gentleman.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman.
So it's really for Brian or Lynn or somebody. It seems to me tonight we had 3 of these come up with surety, and I don't recall that happening in the past. Now, maybe I'm not paying attention or something, but is there a reason why these are all coming up this way tonight? Is there something I'm missing?
It's just like he said, the grading isn't done for him to be able to put in the sidewalk. In the one case, the road has to be widened and, so it's just.
Really just lack of public infrastructure on these 3 jobs tonight.
In this case, we have every desire to put that sidewalk in. We're not trying to defer it or push it off. The surety is basically insurance that if we fail or we just disappear, the city has a backup plan in place to pay for that.
Because I'll be honest with you, I'm a little damaged by the surety issue we have on a different place where the city's going to eat in excess of $1 million probably because of a developer that burned us. And so these 3 come up tonight and I'm suddenly really cautious.
Yep, I hear you. And like I said, these are difficult. These are difficult ones. I mean, his plan is to put the sidewalks in at the time that they're needed, but it's not ready. As he said, it's more of an insurance policy, but if for some reason we need to exercise that insurance policy, and let's say that it's, like the other one, it might be 10 years, well, it may not be enough to cover the cost of the sidewalk, and now we're going back to the homeowners who are saying, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
And then that is a very difficult conversation to have, and you can't say you should have known, because they don't ever know.
But currently, there's lack of public infrastructure, right?
Lynn Tweet, Director of Development Services. There's lack of the widened or brought up to city standards infrastructure. Really what's happening, these 2 are the first development into these areas. So unlike where you kind of keep progressing down a roadway and you just keep extending the infrastructure, these are the first ones in. They both just happen to be adjacent to streets that have not been built to full city standards, widened to their width. So it's an interim situation that we end up dealing with, and that's that question on surety of how best to handle the sureties.
Rather than taking surety, is there a way to approve this and then put a contingent that we will assess the property for the sidewalk when it needs to go in? That way, if it's in 6 months, the surety's probably going to cover it. If it's 6 years, surety's not going to cover it, but if we assess the property, then we get every dime from it.
So comes back to, that is now going like the previous one. That's going to those homeowners is who
Yeah.
we're going to have to assess, because they're going to be the owners at that time.
Either way, the developer's gone.
So the goal is that surety coming from the developer, at least they have paid towards it. Yes, you're right. If
But
it
it's never
delays too
enough.
long, it maybe is not enough.
So so this is on Army Post and 42nd, correct?
Correct.
No, this is on 42nd.
Well,
Southeast
yes,
42nd.
Just 42nd Street.
Well, you're at the corner. You have both.
Correct. Army Post Road is private now, though. It's within
Yeah.
that lot.
It still requires sidewalks.
Still requires sidewalk. So,
But
well, Army Post isn't going to get widened, right? Can't that sidewalk go in now? I mean, I guess anything could be widened, but
yeah, obviously, we need to have a discussion because he was unaware of it, but private sidewalks are now required along private roads as well as public roads. You're right, Army Post Road at this point is all private. It's built basically to what it's going to be. So
and what about 42nd?
42nd is intended to, it's basically still a rural cross-section, so it needs to be brought up to city, suburban, urban cross-section on that area. So it's not, the grades are not set for that sidewalk to be put in right now.
But if we do put the language in, Greta, that it's going to be assessed, that will definitely follow any abstract with this property, correct? I mean, isn't that going to be in clear language that there is an assessment on this property?
Well, I think you'd have to go through the assessment process. I mean, you can't necessarily bind a future council on that, on whether they're going to assess it or put it in.
He's trying to say, though, is there a way that we could have some kind of a document that the homeowners will sign acknowledging that they could potentially have an assessment in the future for the sidewalk so that, I mean,
Are there supposed to be homeowners here? This
There's
strikes
no-
me as
Business, isn't it?
no homeowners at all.
This one's commercial. The
Yeah.
previous one, there is no homeowners yet. I think, Kevin, maybe what you're asking for is a legal document recorded against each parcel.
Yes.
That will kick up in their title opinion that
Yes.
says, oh, you have this future obligation.
Yes,
That would
Now,
help us.
that would help immensely here, because I
And it
get it
covers-
why they don't want to put it in. You
It
can't.
covers
but-
us, but I can guarantee you, most people said, I never read my title opinion. Well, I don't even have a clue what it
But
is.
somebody did, because an
It is
abstract company
in addition
will.
To us.
But we almost, and maybe this is a future workshop, but we almost need something to be filed with the city.
Well,
Signed
and that's
with the
what we're
title.
saying. We would file that document as part of the plat. We would file a sidewalk agreement against every single lot, which would say, at such time as the city says so, you are obligated financially to put in the sidewalk.
But in this case, it's one lot. It's not going to be subdivided because it's a commercial building, correct? So it's going to be easier to do this in this case.
Yeah, commercial is much easier because the sidewalks come, we normally will say with a commercial development, we normally say the sidewalk's in before we give you a final OP. So it's
Right.
easier for us to push it on that. This case, though, the road grades are not set that you can put that sidewalk in.
Which is
You can
different
make
than
a good
Veterans Parkway,
estimate.
because
Yes.
Veterans Parkway is flat, so even
Right,
the
but that's what-
geographic component of this is a difference maker, as well as the industrial versus residential component. So there are some differences.
There are some
It's
differences.
also different than 7A as well.
And that's my reason for asking, can we put some kind of a legal document that says, I understand your intention, but again, if it's years down the line before 42nd Street is ready for sidewalk, it might not even pay half of it, and I don't think it's right to put it on the taxpayers. And if there's a way of tying it to that property
So, yes.
legally, then they have to pay it.
Right, we can execute a sidewalk agreement. They would have to sign it. That is tied to this Plat 2, Lot 1, South Branch Business Park, Plat 2, Lot 1. It's tied to that. It kicks up when they do title opinions. It shows up in the title opinion. It means they can argue, I never read my title opinion, but we're going to go, well, shame on you for not reading your title opinion. So yes, we can do a sidewalk agreement for it. We can also take surety for it, whichever is the preference here. It just, sidewalks agreement and waivers, we used to do those, and those kind of were like, well, we really can't enforce them. So we've gone away from agreements, trying to get more surety.
There's no good
But if we
solution. There is no
There
good
is not
solution here.
not a,
But surety's biting us on one, as Doug pointed out. Would you agree to a sidewalk agreement that was part of the,
I believe the condition of approval previously had a sidewalk agreement that was stricken and replaced with surety by the staff. So yes, we were okay with that. And we would be okay with
Well,
both. We can do a development agreement today and provide surety.
And we have another development in the city that we're dealing with now where, you know, we needed to have this insurance requirement. We had the insurance requirement in place, and I believe the developer's going to pay for it, but the developer is gone. So at least, thank God, we have that insurance bond, surety, you know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
but in this case, if we had this legal
Yeah.
document that followed the property, whoever bought the property would have to put it in.
Right. Well,
That's my
I think that's-
recommendation, is to go with a legal sidewalk agreement that says that whatever date and time the sidewalk's required, the property owner at that point is required to put it in, and they pay full freight on it.
I'm not sure, is that something we can do on the fly right now? I'm not sure that it is. I mean, can we walk back the motion in a second and put that as a requirement in here?
what I would do is I would make your motion with that the applicant either provide surety to the satisfaction of in an amount acceptable to the city, or execute a sidewalk agreement for that. The hangup I believe we have, I believe the code language is, you guys can defer it, but they have to have some kind of surety in place with that agreement.
But the surety is, that we get is today's rate.
Yes. and
So
we-
you're
we
not
have-
going to be able to put it to what's acceptable to the city, because I'm going to say I want $500,000 for this sidewalk, because we don't know what it's going to cost
Yeah.
in 10 years.
The only incident I can tell you that I am aware of is when we did Bridgewood Boulevard in the Whisper Ridge development. We had to stop that street short because you couldn't grade it. It needed creek culverts and everything else. In that case, We took today's surety and an inflation factor for about 7 years, because that was the estimate of how long it would take before that creek crossing would be. And we took that, and then the developer was out of the mix, he paid us. I'm sure it's not going to cover, but it at least gave us something to it rather than nothing.
So when's
to it.
42nd Street going to be curb and gutter? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I just, no new surety, just the agreement that whatever date, 6 months or 60 years.
I think you've got something, Kevin. I think we need to explore that outside of this meeting and see if there's something we can bring back. I think maybe today we accept the surety or the insurance in case, for some reason, these guys go under and don't put the sidewalk in per the agreement that we would be putting in here. So why don't we just take this insurance policy or the surety tonight, and I think you've got something there. Let's work on something that can address this. We've talked about it before. It's a difficult situation to address that would run with the title and maybe be filed with the city, so we can try to prevent future residents coming in and saying they had no idea, they can't pay the $5,000 to put the sidewalk in, this is ridiculous, and they never knew this was a requirement, even though there's a signed document that they have that we don't. But I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think we just probably need to accept let's defer the sidewalk, accept the surety, and at least we have the insurance at this time. And let's research a
I think
little
I'm
bit more.
okay with that on this item.
But
The previous two, like I look at item 7E, which is a result of, who's responsible for sidewalk and the grass around it, right? So that's on the agenda tonight. Like, I feel obligated to treat all these people the same. And we're asking for some mowing to get done as part of 7E, but here we got to do 7B, and I think that's the same thing in my mind. So I want to make sure.
But Russ, to your point, Army Post Road, there's nothing stopping that from having sidewalk, correct?
That would be my understanding.
So if
of it.
you're
I'd
gonna,
like to look
if
into
you're
it.
gonna accept surety, I would suggest the surety be accepted on 42nd Street, not on Army Post. Because 42nd Street is the one that is right now rural, not urban.
Okay, we're deferring the installation of the sidewalk on Southeast 42nd Street, and we're asking for surety. I'm assuming those go together,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay,
So how does the sidewalk get put on 42nd, or on Army Post then?
Prior to final occupancy, they have to have that
Okay.
sidewalk constructed.
okay, and let's continue to research and brainstorm ways that we can head this off in the future. It's an issue we've been dealing with forever, and that we have not been able to find an answer to. And I think, Kevin, something that runs with the title makes sense. I think it probably needs to be filed with us so that we have a copy, so that when people come in and they say, I wasn't aware of this, we have a signed document here, and I am sympathetic to you. I understand that's a lot of money to pay, but you signed this document when you bought that house or bought that property, and we expect that you,
Like I said, I think
Pay for it.
we'll work through it with legal. It needs to
Okay.
be recorded against the property. That's the only
Yeah.
way those people are going to know about it.
right,
So
right. That's what I think we want, but I think we want to have a copy filed with us so that we have that we can pull out.
if we record it in the county, it's at our disposal at any given time.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other comments, questions, any other discussion before we vote? And by we, I mean you. Okay, hearing none, please vote.
Four yes, one no.
Okay. Item 7E, Amendment to City Code, Title 7, Public Ways and Properties, Chapter 1, Streets, Sidewalks, and Alleys, Section 2, Definitions, to add the definition of abutting property owner and right-of-way to help clarify the responsibility of the property owner which abuts public right-of-way. We have got an ordinance for approval of the first reading. There are no outstanding issues, and this was approved unanimously by the Community Compliance City Council Subcommittee.
Move consideration of the first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I would first, before going to council discussion, questions, I would open it up to anybody in the audience or online that would like to address the council on item 7E. Is there anybody in the audience or online that would like to address the council on this item? All right, Fred, come up, give us your name and address for the record.
I'm Fred Bell, 3725 Green Branch Drive, West Des Moines. And a lot of this has been because of a city property which abuts curbs in my area. Sits between my property and the curb in question. Start off by recommending that the council approve this. I did get a copy of this language just this last week. It accomplishes the purpose that it's supposed to, which is that it changes the code from a clear, unambiguous, cannot possibly misunderstand it reading that says the abutting property owner, which in this particular case happens to be the city, to instead mean what the staff wants it to mean, that it doesn't matter if there's several other city properties intervening, the private homeowner or whoever in this case has to go ahead and have the responsibility for the maintenance to that curb. So, like I said, it does what you want. This was, as pointed out, apparently discussed at a community compliance subcommittee on January 16th. I was not given notice of that meeting, nor was I given the text of this, which I was purported to have approved at that meeting. Whoever was taking minutes maybe made some errors on a couple of things there, including some defamation from one of the committee members. But again, it does what...
Definition or defamation, Fred?
Defamation of me.
Okay, okay,
I did not appreciate it in the public record.
okay.
And of course, was not present to hear this at the time. Only found it in the minutes later because I asked my attorney to check on status of this matter last week and was told that it had already gone through that subcommittee and that it was coming up tonight for a vote.
You know, all of the subcommittee meetings are public meetings, they're publicly noticed, and there is, just for your reference, you can sign up and receive notices of these meetings. I don't know if you've done that, but you can do that. I'm not trying to make an excuse for anybody that said they would notify you if that's what they said, Fred, but we do publish public notice, and you can sign up to receive notice as well online.
Okay, appreciate that. And I have been checking occasionally on the city website for that and in the council agendas because this has been pretty much radio silence since we had a meeting with staff in October. And again, now it's finally getting to you. Again, the recommendation is that this goes on.
So just to be clear, you do not approve of the recommendations. You're asking us to vote for it, but you do not approve of the recommendations. You did not agree to this, what was said in the committee meeting. And what was purported.
Again, I wasn't there. I didn't have that text ahead of time. It's fine as it reads.
Okay. So you weren't there, but you're okay with how it
Exactly.
reads?
Yes.
Gotcha. Sorry. Go ahead, Fred.
So, and the only other question then was that there was an item back on, I believe it was item 4I, in which there was a change to the list of assessments. And I don't know what that line item was that was changed, but since my property ended up on that list because of a dispute over cutting of a single weed that the city did not actually cut, but charged me for anyway. And then I just got this initial notice that I was charged for it and with interest as well, that it's become an assessment on my property. So that is supposed to go away as part of the agreement to do this change on the code and for me to take over maintenance on this section of the city's lot and the adjoining parking strip.
Okay. And is that something that you discussed and worked out with legal, I'm assuming? Greta, is this
Yes.
something that,
Yes, that's been removed
Okay.
with the memo on the dais.
okay.
That was the one? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Didn't know which one it was. Any
Okay.
other questions for me on that?
Any questions for Fred at this time? Okay. Fred, thank you so much. Sorry for your hassle. Okay, any discussion from the council? Okay, hearing none, please vote.
Five yes, an ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2024 by amending Title 7 Public Ways and Property, Chapter 1, Street Sidewalks and Alleys.
Move approval, first reading.
Okay, who seconded it?
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Five yes.
Okay, item 8, receive, file, and/or refer. Item 8A, we will receive and file the 2024 Waterworks budget amendment. Item 9, other matters. Are there any other matters that any council person would like to bring up for the good of the order at this time before we adjourn? Or city manager, anything? No? Okay. Hearing none, we are adjourned.